Well, our discussion before the break was
We were speaking about
some opinions,
yes,
humble opinions.
even how people are reacting to all the government planning around the late Jacob Bolanya's burial, planning it around 2.5 billion shillings.
It's I've seen on a tweet here, it is now 1.8.
Look at just how I looked at it. 1.8. So instead of making a reduction, actually they're deciding to.
It's a reduction. Because it was 2.5.
It's now 1.8.
Though it is a tweet, I've seen a tweet from a tweet.
No, let us first discuss the initial one. Why would you plan for that kind of money? The concern here is...
I was telling my mother that money can build a hospital.
I've never even built a hospital. Okay, it can relatively build an ELO. Is it the health center? You know, the health center 4s, 3s. So it can do a health center 3, not 4, but at least a 3. But when you look at all that planning, my concern here is when a member of government dies, when a member of parliament, government, or any official from government, when they die, do you tend to tell me that their family cannot afford to hand a burial?
They can, but he's a government. He was a
then
public
that's
servant.
where we need, that is when we need to, be flexible as a country. How is government working together with the family? Olanya's family saying, you know what, have you ever heard the statement of that kind?
Auntie, the family claims he was poisoned. Kati we mutaba faako bajagamba n'omulambo gw'omwana mugutulikedde.
But it doesn't mean that he was poisoned by government if those are the allegations.
Because even the president said
even the father was
they should
highlighting
arrest people who are saying that he was poisoned. Because according to statements from the hospital, do not reveal that it was poison. So
if
the
you are to
president
arrest
was
people,
asking,
you're basically going to arrest even the late father, because he was
because now the president is saying,
it
why
that
do you
way
bring
as
out
well?
your different remarks, your different reports, yet the hospital has a statement? Because the hospital gives the final statement. Whether you were shot and the hospital says you died of heart attack.
It remains the same. But as we conclude on this discussion, we want us to contextualize all these, because this is not, it is not the last or the first. Someone else is going to die in that kind of bracket, or, a particular need in that way. Does that mean that government is going to put expenditures that kind of way? And what if we have next month an occurring particular death of that kind?
Final twist is that the money is supposed to be from us. Teziriwo, zakwewola. Now that is the most funniest twist about
again,
the whole
thing. But there was a funeral book at Parliament.
Funeral book bali bawandikamu ndowooza nga buli omu ateekamu abantu bakuteereddemu omutwalo MP.
But as we leave this discussion, personally, I don't buy the idea of a government planning or towards government officials.
The idea is okay. The idea by the
planning
is okay.
over budgeting. This is
the idea is okay.
This is being extravagant.
There is a committee.
Not in our capacity.
Everything
at some point.
besides this came after maybe people said the committee requested for a lot of money. 2.5 billion. The only challenge is the billion part makes everything look heavy. Now that is one thing they really need to know. The billion part makes everything look heavy. Because if you exceed over 900 million, I mean 900 million, people have budgets here which don't even exceed 50 million for just a barrier. And now someone tells you you exceed even $1 billion shillings. I mean, if you look at the allocations of most of the sectors of the economy, this is where most sectors actually don't even receive this.
Some sectors do not even go to billion shillings. They're always around 500 million at some point. Given that, for example, the Ministry of Gender and Social Development, is one of the sectors that is given almost, some low projections or low funds when it comes to being considered during budgeting. But just to highlight for you, according to the initial plan, as we conclude, the funeral service, that is A+, was given around 226 million. Finance committee taking around 48.7 million. I don't know the finance committee, what is the role of the financing committee? It is financing the money, again, given money to finance what? Also, Acholi MPs are being given 312.9 million. Security
is actually a revised edition. They're actually going to.
I'm talking about the initial plan of the 2.5, because the revision came after public reacted. If at all the public was reluctant, or even media, that means they were not going to revise. So just to let you know, the initial planning, security and burial day around 1.1 billion and fuel 124 million. We'll be giving you the final breakdown of the planning a bit later. Stick around.
And with the discussion that we'll be having, we shall also highlight something about that with a guest who will be coming up at 9. But now let's say to the SMB reports, as the Democratic Republic of Congo is officially admitted to the East African community.
Very well, and speaking about that, we're going to look at how the DRC officially is being admitted to EC, which the East African Community Heads of State development based on the economic scale. The Democratic Republic of Congo was officially admitted there around March, that is yesterday, 29th, 2022, during the 19th Extraordinary Summit of the ESC Head of States. But although it has been officially become a member, it has much to come straight away, and the Congolese lawmakers still have to ratify the East African laws and regulations before actually they come into effect, and this will be highlighted around 14th of April coming up. Let us look at the story we return to discuss with you on this.
The Democratic Republic of Congo was officially admitted to the East African community on March 29, 2022, during the 19th Extraordinary Summit of the East African Community Heads of State. While addressing the East African Community Heads of State, President Uhuru Kenyatta, who is the chairperson of the summit, said the admission of the DRC into the bloc would enable the community achieve the much-needed development based on the economies of scale.
And the summit has therefore taken a decision to admit the DRC as a full member of the East African community.
In a closed session, the summit undertook the decision to admit the DRC into the East African community. President Kenyatta said that the admission of the DRC into the ESC is historic, not only for the East African community countries, but to the continent at large. President Yoweri Museveni of Uganda welcomed the DRC into the East African community and said that now there is need to work on peace in Eastern Congo, because that region has been having problems for some time, and underscored the fact that for people who are looking for prosperity, this is a very important issue. President Paul Kagame of Rwanda urged all the institutions of the East African community to accelerate the admission processes in accordance with the treaty and the rules of admission. Tanzanian President Samia Suluhu Hassan underlined that it's their expectation that the DRC will ratify the admission on time to allow the community to benefit from integration. Burundi was represented by Vice President Prosper Bagobanza. South Sudan's Minister in the Office of the President, Dr. Barnaba Mariel Benjamin, represented President Salva Kiir. Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi also addressed the meeting. Democratic Republic of Congo becomes the 7th member under the East African Community and the latest entry into the bloc, replacing the Republic of South Sudan as the newest member. Democratic Republic of Congo applied for membership in 2019, hoping to improve trade and political ties with its East African neighbors. It will allow Congolese citizens to travel freely to the other countries, and trade will become much quicker, simpler, and cheaper, which should benefit businesses and consumers in all member states.
Very well, there you go, and welcome to the East African Community, the DRC, that was announced by the Kenyan president. And what you need to know is that the Democratic Republic of Congo will be expected to sign a deed of accession to the treaty with the chair of a summit by 14th April 2022. Thereafter, the DRC will handle internal process leading to the deposit of instrument of ratification around its membership of the East African Community.
And surely the Congolese lawmakers will still have to ratify with the East African Community laws and regulations before everything comes into effect. So not much is changing straight away. There are still other things that are supposed to be done because when you look at Sudan, when Sudan was also Republic of South Sudan, when it was admitted to the East African Community, there are a lot of laws that were supposed to actually be dealt with. There are a lot of deals that were supposed to be signed. There are a lot of things that were supposed to be effected, but it could take some good time. Just like the fact that Democratic Republic of Congo did actually apply for membership in 2019, and the membership has waited till 2022. So you can clearly see there are a lot of processes that will actually entail at the end of the day. So when you look at what the Congolese government is actually looking at with joining the East African Community, they're looking for market. There is possible market here. There is cheap trade and labor at the end of the day, because you're part of the East African Community bloc. And with the idea that in the long run also, once everything is stabilized, Congolese, Ugandans, Kenyans will easily move into Congo to and fro with just the use of a passport, the East African passport or your country's passport, or even the national ID that represents the country that you're coming in from. So clearly the Democratic Republic of Congo is hoping that it can actually improve trade and political ties with the East African neighbors, because President Yoweri Museveni did mention that they are going to look at creating peace in Eastern Congo, because when you look at that, Eastern Congo is neighboring to Uganda, and that such a conflict needs a lot to be done. That is why we even have the Operation Shuja ongoing in the Democratic Republic of Congo. So when you look at such things, they're looking at stabilizing the political atmosphere in Congo to actually open up, because in such a narrative, or in such a generation as well, you will only agree that peace and security create a conducive environment for business to prevail, so that if trade is to prevail, let's say exportation and importation of goods from and to Congo to prevail, Congo has to be peaceful, and the political atmosphere has to be stable. So that is why you could say that the African presidents here, the East African Community presidents, have highlighted. President Paul Kagame of Rwanda urged institutions of the East African Community to accelerate the admission process so that it actually, it was officially admitted, but there are other admission processes that are supposed to be followed. So the president of Rwanda came out and said that the East African Community presidents and institutions should accelerate the admission in accordance with the treaty and the rules of admission that are supposed to be followed to firmly confirm and welcome the Democratic Republic of Congo into the East African Community. But now it joins the East African Community officially, and it's the seventh member of the community.
And welcome DRC Congo. What also you need to know about the DRC is that it has got an estimated population of 92 million people, and as well as known for being Congo Kinshasa, that is always highlighted as the DRC of Congo Zaire. You know, it is always different because it has got a lot of cities attached and representing that. There is Congo Zaire there, but the country is in the center of Africa. Though with the East African side now, we consider the DR Congo as now that is the western part. And when you look at all this integration, that means the East African Community countries in East Africa have got opportunities because now they have an opener to the western side of the African continent. That means trade, production, importation, exportation will as well be considered from the other side, because now if someone joins from the other side, that means you're free to trade around the other areas. Like you were highlighting, Congo is as well targeting into what East African has. But East Africa, Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Sudan, Rwanda, Burundi are also now looking at their market outside the East African bloc, but crossing from Uganda and to the western side. And when you look out for, when you look at what majorly is the concern with Congo weakest economies, actually it has got, it is weak in its minerals, though it is rich. Do you know you can be rich with clothes, but you do not know which one to put on? You can have a lot of clothes, your closet is packed, is full, but you don't know which to use and use at some point. So it's energy sector is weak, its infrastructure sector is weak. If you look at roads in Kinshasa, they're very, they're poor roads around there, I can't say. That is why it is always hard and difficult to make transitions of goods and transportation around there. Also, their agriculture sector is one of the sectors that is highlighted as a weak point in Congo. So all these sectors, and the fishing, by the way, their fishing sector is weak. So looking at their weakness, and when being weak in agriculture, Uganda is strong in agriculture. So when you find your weakness and there is a strong attachment in other places, that means there is hope for you to actually boost it all. And probably you can be at the same level, or if you're wise at your game, you could even pass and surpass what other people's expectations are. But as well, DRC Congo, or the DRC, is joining East African community. However, East African community countries, when we speak about Ethiopia, we speak about South Sudan, Rwanda, Burundi, Tanzania, and Uganda, have highlighted their conflicts as of last week, even highlighting how they are demanding each other, because they set their budget for the financial year June 2021-2022. But other countries are in debt. For example, the worst, or those being highlighted more so that are indebted a lot, is Burundi and South Sudan.
Well, and also when you look at the situation that is actually happening, is that Burundi and South Sudan are also some of the youngest members, more so with South Sudan. Let's now try to date back a little bit of the East African community to get back to how it all started. 1999. If you're to look at the situation here from the East African community, member states back then we had Uganda, Kenya and Tanzania. So when you look at that particular declaration, it was the treaty for the establishment of the East African community was signed in Arusha on 30th November in 1999. The treaty entered into force on July 7th, 2000, following the conclusion of the process of its ratification and deposit of instruments of ratification with the Secretary General by the three partner states. Now, by then, we had Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania. Remember, even initially before this East African community, when President Milton Obote, together with Dr. Julius Nyerere Kambarage, and as well as Jomo Kenyatta, had formed that particular community. But then the declaration that actually led to the establishment of the EAC, East African Community, started in after a 30th November 1999 treaty that was in Arusha. Arusha is in Tanzania. It started with 3 member states, and later on we were joined by Rwanda, as then we're just drawing back to some of these countries that came on to actually join on board the East African community, tracing down the journey of the East African community. Now, from Rwanda, we moved on to Burundi coming through, and South Sudan was the latest entry. However, later on, it was actually joined by Democratic Republic of Congo, which actually put us which actually becomes the 7th. It applied in 2019, but the idea was bred from 1967. That was when you look at the idea of the East African community was actually bred in 1967. By then, Jomo Kenyatta, there was Milton Obote, like I mentioned. Then there was Jomo Kenyatta, Julius Nyerere, and Dr. Milton Obote by then, who was a former premier of Uganda before turning to president. And of course, so you can clearly see how the journey has been. It has been a regional state with, it has actually been a regional community with 6 states. Now we have 7 onto the panel as DRC becomes the 7th state. So
Very. And when you look at what changes immediately with DRC joining East African community, you realize that the EC heads have approved the admission of Congo there at the bloc, but the summit meeting has got also lots of preservations that are being that are already ongoing, even as we speak, that they have to consider still ticking. Even when you are in class, you are a good person, you're a good candidate, but your teachers have got to sit always and, you know, give markings onto you. But Congolese citizens wish to visit other member countries like Burundi, Rwanda, Uganda, Tanzania without a visa like you are highlighting. And this one is going to improve the business community around. If now you want to travel to Congo, you do not need to go have a visa, but rather your passport. Now, which is why, as a Ugandan citizen, you need to go and have your passport ready anytime, always, because you never know where life at some point will push you. You might find yourself wanting to explore the DR Congo, but the passport will help you there.
Well, we welcome the DRC to the East African community. After the break, we are discussing dealing with risks associated with enterprises, how to deal with them, and also looking at the trickling effects of the Russian and Ukraine war on Uganda's economy. Coming up shortly is Captain Babu Francis to take us through this. Stick around.